Hi fellow Illustrator enthusiasts. Welcome to another tutorial. This one is about working with meshes along with distortion envelopes. You'll see here a funny looking backwards S, and as you could probably see, this is the easiest way to create an airbrush effect like this is with a mesh, but this shape can be kind of challenging to create directly with the mesh tool. So I use a method of distorting the mesh within an envelope distortion, a distortion envelope. So let me take you through this process. I'm going to select all, delete, and we'll start out just by creating a basic shape to use kind of as a very simple design. And I'm going to convert that to a guide. I'm on the Mac, so I'm holding Command 5 to convert to guide. Now we'll use that in just a minute. But what I'm going to do over here to the side is create a gradient. Well, instead of creating a gradient, we'll create a mesh directly. And I'm hitting the U key to get my mesh tool, and then I will click and then choose a new color and click again, choose another color, and I kind of like the black, so I'm going to turn, actually I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to deselect these inner anchor points and choose the black. Now I could do this, I could add another line here. Let's do and make that black as well. Now we can tweak this, change it, whatever we want to do, but that's what I'm going to use for now. Now, how would I turn this into this quarter moon shape? I could take this over here and start moving these mesh points around, but it would be rather tedious. What I find works much better is to, with this selected, I will go into envelope, and I'm going to make with mesh, and I'm going to identify or set my mesh as simple as possible, one row and one column, and I'll show you why in a minute. Now it has enveloped that mesh in a distortion envelope. We can see that in the layers panel. And I'm hitting the A key to get my direct select tool, and if I drag across, it's a little hard to see, but each of these anchor points have, these are corner anchor points, and they have two direction lines associated with them. And those direction lines are a bit hard to see. Maybe if I changed my preferences to enlarge those, if I remembered where that was. Handles, anchors, makes them a little bit bigger, but not really. Never mind. Okay, so I could move these around by clicking on a single point and then finding the direction handle and start distorting it this way. But I'm going to back up, Command Z. What I'm going to do instead is move the whole thing over here. And now I'm going to just hit the E key to get the free transform tool, and I'm going to first kind of get it in the right direction for my shape. And now I'm going to typing A to get the direct select tool. I'll move this anchor point on top of the corner. And to make this work, we need to pull in this anchor point or direction point to sit on top of the anchor point. And we'll do the same thing with this side. Now see, if I just drag it over, then I've got the confusing shape going on. So I want to move that anchor point on top of the I might want to do that after I move it actually. Let's see. If I drag that on top, it kind of should pop into place. Now when I drag, I'll move both at the same time. And now I want to move the direction point that was vertical for both of these points. Now I don't have to click on the anchor point to activate this direction line. I just need to click anywhere along that direction or along that line segment, and then I can visualize. I'm going to change the color of that of this layer, hopefully to make to something that you can see a little bit more easily. Maybe a bright green. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, now I'll do the same thing for the bottom. Drag this one over, drag the anchor point, bring it in, do the same thing here. There are a lot of ways that you can distort these. You don't have to do them one point at a time. You can use the free distortion, and we could talk about that in a minute. But okay, so now I already have this basic shape. I'm going to hide my guides because that's not really relevant anymore. So I have this shape, which would have taken me quite a bit longer doing it directly. But now the advantage is I'm on Illustrator CS5, and I don't know if the keyboard commands have changed, but I'm holding Command-Shift-P to toggle to edit the content of the envelope. Now, you see when I typed Command-Shift-P, I see the grid work for the mesh that's being distorted, and I can now open up that envelope and see the mesh inside. What that does for me is if I know I can click this point, which I know is the yellow, and I could change it to, say, blue or green, and I could quickly, completely change my color scheme. And this may not be quite as intuitive because you're not, you do kind of have to know where you want to click, but once you click on a point, you see the color in your color panel, so it's not a big surprise. And the nice thing about this could also, this mesh object could be a symbol, and you could actually use the same mesh and distort it multiple ways to create different variations using the same color blends. Now, another advantage of working this way is I'm going to toggle back to edit the envelope distortion, the distortion envelope, Command Shift P. Now I had created this with only one row and one column, but by hitting the U, just U, on the keyboard, I can add another row, and now I'm free to distort this in a more creative way. I see that it didn't update properly, and let's see what happened here. Oh, that's because I didn't move the right point. I actually have two curves. So I'm going to back up, Command Z, and what I had done, instead of clicking right on the line, I had clicked inside, and so it created a second vertical line. And I don't want four quadrants. I just want two. So I want to make sure I click right on the line, the outside edge. Now when I drag, it should distort properly. And at this point, I could use my rotate tool if I wanted, say, to rotate that both sides of that anchor point, both direction lines at the same time. I'm hitting R, now rotating, and you can see you get the distortion going. And now I'm going to drag across there. That would be another way you could select. Sometimes it's a little more accurate. You see how quickly you can create a very smooth, looks like a very funky looking slug, doesn't it? Now, if I want to turn the end point, I'm going to hit R again to get my rotate tool, and you see how I can rotate both anchor points or both direction points simultaneously. I could drag both across both of those points, again hitting R, and get a whole different look. I just find this to be very a very simple way to work with meshes. You can imagine different ways of using this technique for all kinds of. I've used it for creating detailed lighting on tubing for a bicycle or a chair, what have you. Hope that was helpful.